Hello, everyone, and welcome to Daily Grace with Pastor James. Thank you for joining me in this episode. Today, we are going to be looking at the waiting room of life. Last week, I was with the family that just relocated to Derby, and we got discussing. The husband said he's been looking for a job, he's been writing a lot of applications, and he will go for interview. After the interview, in his mind, he feels that he has done really well, but they will later come back and say, on this occasion, you have not been successful. And he's been on that process for so long, he was now discouraged. Only for one that he did not even apply for, but they just saw his CV on the internet, and then they called him that they just want to have a chat. And he was reluctant to go for that interview because it has happened before that they say, oh, that we just want to have a chat with you. And it still turned out that they did not take him. But the wife just encouraged him to just go. And he went. That is the one that actually called him and gave him employment. And guess what? It was his dream job, the job that he's been looking for. Hallelujah. God has a way of doing things. You see, the thing with life is what God has ordained for you, nobody can take it away from you. The one that God has not ordained for you, you can do whatever strategy, whatever gymnastic you want to do. That is the one that will not come to fruition. We are talking today about the waiting room of life. Psalm 40 verse 1, David says, I waited patiently for the Lord. That is the word, patience. Most of us, the word patience has been thrown out of the window. We don't want to wait for God's time. We just need our time. And our time is, we need it like yesterday. David said, I waited patiently for the Lord, and he inclined to me. In other words, he hearkened, he listened to me, he heard my cry. Wait patiently for the Lord. But please, when I say wait patiently for the Lord, I am not saying that you should just sit down and fold your arms and do nothing. That is not waiting patiently for the Lord, or waiting in the waiting room is all about. You are still going to do things. You pray for God to order your step. You pray for God to make you do the things that you are meant to do so that that dream will come true. One of the most obvious evidence of faith is how we respond to the waiting room of life. How do you respond to the waiting room of life? How long can you wait for your dream to become a reality? That is the mark of maturity. That is the mark of growing up. When you look at children, of course, they have hard time in waiting. They don't want to wait. They don't know the difference between no and not yet. In fact, when you say not yet, they just assume what you're saying is that you don't want to give it to them, that it is no, but that is not true. Not yet is not the same thing as no. And of course, as we grow up in life, we come to realize and know that there is a difference between no and not yet. Brethren, God's time is so crucial when we are pursuing God's dream for our lives. You need to wait for God's time. Many times your dream may be exactly what God is leading you to do, but it's just going it step by step, training you, preparing you for that thing which He wants you to do. If you are in a hurry, you might miss God's time. You don't want to get behind God's time. You don't want to get ahead of God's time. You just want to be in time when God's time is ripe, because God's time is always the perfect time for you. God's time is always the perfect time for my life. God's time is always the perfect time for your life. And when you look at scriptures, you will see evidence of waiting on the Lord. Many times in the Bible, the Israelites have waited for the Lord. They waited while the Lord is doing his work, while the Lord is preparing them for that breakthrough, for that dream. Remember when they were waiting to be set free from bondage in Egypt, they waited for 400 years. I mean, that's a very long time to wait. But they waited, they waited, they waited. And when the time finally came, they still had to wait another 80 years. Moses, which is the one that God wanted to use to deliver them, had to spend 40 years in the palace in Egypt to learn the ropes, to be equipped for the work ahead. And after that, he also went to the wilderness in his father-in-law's farm for another 40 years before he could go and deliver the children of Israel from bondage. Brethren, that is a very long time to wait, but eventually they got that breakthrough. Eventually they got the freedom that God wanted them to get. The psalmist says, I waited patiently for the Lord. He turned to me and he heard my cry. NIV version. How would you respond when you are waiting for your next step? How would you respond? Would you be patient enough while you are going through the training in the waiting room for God's time? Because his time is never too late. He will come. And I pray that your own time will come. Your dream will be fulfilled. No one can take it away from you. Just focus on God, not on man, and focus on what the Lord has called you to do. It will definitely come to pass. Thank you so much for listening to me in this episode, and I pray that you will not fail in your waiting room. You will succeed in your waiting room in God's time. God bless you, and if this message has blessed you, why not share it to others so that they can also be blessed? My name is James Egodibie. I pastor RCCG Solid Rock Parish, Derby, 55 Woods Lane, DE22 3UD. Thank you, and I'll see you in the next episode. Bye.